Welcome to the Default Profitable Podcast. This is the next episode where we're going to talk about some successes, some failures, and some of the lessons you get from running a family-owned business in the second generation. I'm your host, Matt Nettleton, and today my guest is Jeff Godby. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you very much for having me, Matt.
No problem. So, you and I have talked for a couple of minutes here, but why don't we take a few minutes, introduce yourself, and then we can introduce your business to everybody.
Yeah, well, my name is Jeff Godby, and I am the owner of Godby Home Furnishings here in central Indiana. I am second generation. My dad, Jim, started the business 51 years ago in Sheridan, Indiana, which is northern Hamilton County. And as I told Matt, he borrowed $5,000 from my grandpa and went for it. And that's how the whole thing started. Today, we have 3 large locations. When I say large, I have a 50,000 square foot store on State Road 37 and 146 in between Noblesville and Fishers. We have a 40,000 square foot store in Carmel and a 40,000 square foot store in Avon. We also have a 17,000 square foot clearance center in downtown Noblesville, and then a 75,000 square foot warehouse in Westfield that's racked 6 high, where we store and receive all of our product and deliver all of our product out of that location every day. So from that $5,000 investment, actually it wasn't even a loan. My grandpa co-signed the loan at the bank for $5,000. It's come from that to where last year the company did $40 million in sales.
Wow.
So it's grown dramatically.
Now, 51 years ago, your dad started it. When did you start working?
Yeah, I actually went to Sheridan High School, graduated in 1982, went to Purdue University and graduated in 1986 with a degree in communications from Purdue. One, didn't really want to have anything to do with the retail furniture business, and quite honestly, it wasn't big enough. It wasn't big enough for 2 families to survive on. So I actually went to work for a company called Nagley Outdoor Advertising at the time. They had all the billboards in Indianapolis, and I sold for them for about 4 years after college, and then decided, I figured out I was going to have to work hard no matter what I was doing. So I might as well have my name on the side of the building. So kind of talked my dad into giving me a shot at coming back and just running the warehouse or doing whatever and trying to make it grow. And I think that's really what gave him the courage to go for it and expand, knowing that there was going to be a second generation involved.
Now, I don't know the answer to this. Are you an only child?
No, I have a brother and sister. Neither one are in the business. My brother is as a construction engineer in Denver, Colorado, and my sister just retired from teaching at Sheridan Middle School, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah.
You came back to the business and you said, hey, give me a shot.
Yeah.
Just stick me where did you start? Where did you end up starting? Or was it a jack of all trades kind of deal?
No, we had the one store in Westfield at the time, and there was a need in the warehouse, and that didn't last long because of some other situations. But actually, my wife is originally from Lebanon, so we were living in Lebanon at the time, and we still do. A furniture store came available for sale in Lebanon at that time, and it looked like a good way to expand. So we did end up buying that store, and I ran that store for a number of years.
When did your dad retire?
He's still kind of around. About 5 years ago, he had a bout with pancreatic cancer, and that kind of set him back a little bit. But happy to say he is still thriving, and cancer has not come back. And 5 years later, he's still doing well.
He retires 5 years ago, and you've been with the company how long at that point?
I'm about 35 years right now. No, 32. 32 years is what I've been back with the business.
And so you ran the warehouse, you ran a store, you kind of just moved up through the ranks.
We had Westfield and Lebanon going, and had one of our factory representatives come to us and say, the west side of Indianapolis is wide open and it's growing like crazy. And we said, well, okay, we kind of looked at Brownsburg at that intersection at 267 and 74, right there where Boulder Creek is, if some of you West Siders know that. And we had a realtor say, well, that's a good location, but if you do that, you get Brownsburg. If you go to Avon, you get Avon, Brownsburg, Danville, Mooresville, Plainfield, and the west side of Indianapolis. And that's what we did. So we're at Dan Jones in Rockville out in Avon, and it's our second biggest volume store. It's a great store for us.
5 years ago, Dad retires, a little sick, you take over. Mm-hmm. What are some of the lessons that you didn't realize you needed to know when you took on the...
It's one of those things where I had been here for 27 years, so it wasn't like I was running the show anyway, even though Dad was trying to phase out. It's his baby, and he started it, and it's his life. So it was kind of a mutual running the show. It still is. He's in on every major decision. But it was just one of those things where it evolved and we knew that the progression had to happen. It was difficult, and it still is. I mean, every day in a family business is a challenge between keeping the family intact and running a successful business.
And so you said $40 million revenue. How many people work for you?
Right at 100 people.
So 100 families depending on you, plus your family.
Yes.
Yeah, no pressure there.
No. And I tell people, the suburbs of Indianapolis have been great to us. What we did could not have happened in Elwood or Tipton or somewhere like that. It started in Sheridan, and we kind of grew to the suburbs, and the suburbs grew to us.
Right.
All at the same time. And I tell people, kind of jokingly, but I say, if you can't sell furniture in the suburbs of Indianapolis, you're doing it wrong. So, I mean, it's a great place to be in this business. It really is.
What are some of the things somebody comes to you and says, hey, listen, you're a successful business owner, you're a local family-owned company. I'm thinking about leaving my big corporate gig. What are some of the things you would advise them to think about before they become the person that decides to work for themselves?
Yeah, it's hard, man. And I'm maybe not even the person to lend this advice because it was my dad, who really took that leap of faith. As I said, I came in and I think gave him the courage the foresight to say it's going to grow. But I guess if I were my dad giving that advice, I'm telling you, man, he has the attitude of risk is nothing to him. Risk means nothing. I mean, he started with nothing. He can go back to nothing. No big deal. That's the attitude that he had and still has. He kind of not grew up, but with a chip on his shoulder, not liking rich people, not liking people that didn't work hard. And so, yeah, it was just kind of I can outwork you kind of mentality.
I don't know how old your dad is. My dad's 94.
Okay, my dad's just 83 right now. Yeah.
So my dad's back into the Great Depression.
Sure.
He does not like people that don't work.
Right.
And he does not like people that buy new things.
Right. Right. I still say my dad won't fly to Florida if the flight's over $100. He just won't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different attitude. It's funny because you point out $40 million, 100 employees. When I asked for lessons, your response was, I don't know that I'm the person to ask. But to be honest with you, this is one of the things that's been interesting in the podcast. I think this is episode like 123.
Okay.
And the number of entrepreneurs, the number of people that run businesses, that employ people. And when I say, well, what lessons could you share? They're like, I haven't really done anything. Anybody could do this.
Yeah. And that's what, it's the American dream. It really is. And I think it's alive and well and out there. It's difficult when people look at something like this and think, well, it's just always been there. It's always been this way. You've always been wealthy. You've always been, it's always been easy. It's been given to you. And that's just not the way it is.
You start at zero every day.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, there is a risk of losing everything. Now, because my dad has been very frugal over the years and hasn't lived extravagantly, pumped every dime back into the business for the most part, we are very financially sound, but a lot of companies are not.
But even being financially sound, I mean, you have changes in tax code, you have costs of inventory, you have all kinds of...
Yeah, I tell people all the time, every day that goes by is less and less to do with selling furniture. That's just not my job. It's more with dealing with taxation and dealing with health care benefits and dealing with, and personnel's not even that big a deal compared to the outside forces that are put on you by the government and put on you by just making sure you're doing everything right so you don't get in trouble.
It's funny you say that the people aren't that hard. How important is the culture that you guys have built?
Very. I like to say we're either the biggest of the little guys or the littlest of the big guys when it comes to size of our business. And we basically were just a small mom and pop that got big. That's what happened. And we try to keep that same culture. I tell people I hate having a handbook, an employee handbook, because then you got to do it. You know what I mean? Then you got to follow the rules, even though you might not want to. If grandma passed away and I want to let somebody go for a few days, but that's not in the handbook, you got to go by the handbook. We just want people to be fair with us and we'll be fair with them.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of our culture.
And you have actually a lot of long-term employees, too,
Oh my gosh.
based on that. Yeah.
Yes. I bet our average is 10 years, I would say is the average tenure of the people that work for us.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We try to treat them right, benefits, and it's not just all pay. Civil. We are in retail, but we like to think it's civilized retail. We are open 361 days a year. We're closed Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, and the 4th of July. Other than that, we're open. On the weekends, we do close Saturday at 6. We're Sunday just noon to 5. So we think that you can still have a decent quality of life when you're out of this place. But at the same time, we have to be here. When other people don't work, that's when the furniture business cranks. Right. Because people have time to come in and buy.
Right. Running a business, obviously, you have to worry about the outside more than the inside at the level that you're at. And I think there's always that balancing act for business owners. Yeah. You want to be in the business that you're in, but in reality, you got to fit in.
Yeah.
Any other tips you would give somebody who was thinking about somebody who's just running a business, somebody who's talking to their dad about inheriting a business even?
Yeah. Just stay after it, meaning, and my dad, I quote him all the time, a number of different things, but one of the things he says is 80% of success is just showing up, just being there. Nobody knows. It's like parenting. Nobody knows what they're doing, but just be there. And it's this kind of the same with running a business. If you show up, something good might happen.
Right.
If you don't show up, nothing good is going to happen. So that's pretty much it, just showing up. And that's what I see. I've got people doing all kinds of stuff in my business, but I'm here every day. I don't necessarily do specific things the same every day, but they know I show up.
Well, one of the things when we work with our clients, one of the things that we help them understand is that they pay their employees an awful lot of money, and they should let them do their job.
Oh, yeah.
And it sounds like you've kind of got that mastered where you actually have hired good people and let them work.
Yeah. With 100 employees and open 361 days a year, I can't do it all. I don't want to.
Right.
So you have to hire good people that you trust to run the daily show, and that's what we've got going.
That's good.
Yeah. My warehouse manager, as a matter of fact, he's been with us probably 15, 18 years, something like that. But somebody asked him, why he's here, why he's worked at Godby Home Furnishings. He goes, well, it's the only job I've ever had, and I love it. And he goes, and I love Jim Godby. That's it. He's not looking to go anywhere else. We treat him fairly, maybe, hopefully more than fairly. And he's a happy person.
Just kind of wrap up. You look at this, you've done it. Your sister retired as a teacher in Sheridan.
Yep.
Your brother's out in Colorado.
Yep.
Is there a third Godby?
That's a good question. I have children. My son is actually a teacher in Lebanon, a teacher and a high school coach in Lebanon. My daughter just graduated from Butler a couple years ago, and she lives downtown Indy and is a graphic designer. So at this point, no. And that's something, too, for future entrepreneurs. I don't really have an exit strategy. I'm 61 years old, and not that I want one. But at the same time,
it's going to get rolling at some point.
Yeah, at some point, there has to be, a plan. That's the only thing that really scares me every day when I wake up is there's no plan. I don't know what that's going to be, but we're working on it.
That's a pretty quick 16 minutes of good business basics, of showing up and taking care of people and growing a business. And $40 million is nothing to sneeze at. And
right.
100 employees is a real impact.
Right. I might just close with something. That profit is not a bad thing. Okay. And don't let anyone tell you that it is. It was funny. A few years back when my daughter was in middle school, I was explaining how retail worked. We buy a sofa in North Carolina for one price, ship it to Indiana, sell it for a different price. And the difference is the profit that we use to run the company. So she says, well, so you're telling me that you charge more than what you buy it for? I go, yeah. She goes, well, don't tell anybody. Like people would think I'm ripping them off, so it's just the whole concept of profit being a good thing. That's what makes the world run. So don't be ashamed of making money.
Well, and although you kind of poo-pooed it earlier, profit's really the reward for taking a risk.
Oh, yes. Yeah. If not, why do it?
Right. Everybody.
Right. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So it's risk and reward. It really is.
Yeah. And that's the big thing. I mean, I think, this is really 80% plus of the listeners of this are in Indianapolis.
Right.
80% plus of the listeners by survey are people that have started or are starting a business.
Yeah.
And
so they'll get it.
that message on profit is super important. I will also tell you, and we can have a quick conversation about this. I was dealing with a guy that's thinking about starting an HVAC company.
Okay.
He didn't know how to set pricing. And so he said, well, it cost me this. And in order to make the money I want, I have to price it at this. And I said, well, you might want to think about figuring out what the market will bear also.
Yep.
Because what you want to make is less important than how you fit into the market. And you can be a premium.
Right.
It's okay to be a premium.
Right.
But you can't just make up a number.
Right. Now, and that's the same in the furniture business. There's no way I can charge a bunch more for the product when I've got competition out there. And that's just healthy. We all know how much it takes to make it. And quite honestly, there is nobody out there selling it for less than anybody else. They're just not. The stuff is the stuff and the price is the price. Everybody has sales and whatever, but for the most part, the margins are the same.
Right.
We know how much we can charge. We know how much we have to charge to make it. So that's that very little slice of how much to barely make it and how much can we bear without looking like we're overcharging people.
In the end, like you said, the stuff is the stuff.
Yeah. People
buy the service behind the stuff.
Yeah, right. And I think that has to do with a family business. I hope, anyway, that's what that we're supporting the local marching band. And we're the Little League and 100 families here in central Indiana. Your money's not going to New York or LA or somewhere like that. It's right here in central Indiana being turned over and over and over again. So,
which matters.
Yeah, I think so anyway.
Yep, I'd agree. All right. Well, thanks for being a guest. If anybody wants to learn more about Godby, we'll have information in the show notes at defaultprofitable.com. If you want to help us out, you can subscribe. You can leave a review. You can share an episode.
Yep. Or give me a call.
Give them a call. We'll include that contact information.
Right.
So until next week, show up, keep working, stay profitable.
That's right. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
All right.